Well, hey there, and good afternoon. Gosh, we have a great session for you here today. Let me just share my screen. There we go. Welcome, by the way. Today is organizing and managing your job search, or a better, more sexy title is really supercharging your job search. When we look at organizing and managing the job search itself, it doesn't seem very exciting, but this is exactly how you're able to manage your job search so that you get your activity to produce potentially multiple offers, which is how you end up having choice in your job search. So welcome. In case you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. We're going to talk a lot about things today, but especially how a sales process factors into job search, because it really is a sales process. You are there to essentially teach them how to select you, even in the outreach and introduction side of the process. By the way, in case you need help elevating your career brand across your resume, across your LinkedIn profile, how you speak about yourself during interview, gosh, all my packages are over on my SelfRecruiter website, just under the services tab. If you'd like to talk before you know which one is right for you, just reach out and we'll set up a conversation anytime. My book will certainly help you. New York Public Library has some copies. Amazon certainly has copies. If you catch me out speaking somewhere live, I always have copies with me. Really acts as a wonderful roadmap. A few other resources to help you. My full LinkedIn lecture, a special version of it, by the way, is right on my homepage, about halfway down. Totally free. You can see me large, see the slides large. Really, you can use it as a start and stop tutorial as you build out an incredible LinkedIn profile. When you go to my LinkedIn profile itself, you can click on my articles, and there's a number of articles there that will help you through a number of the issues that you face in job search. Now, when we really think, well, what is a job search? You know what most people think it is? Most people think it is sitting on the internet looking for job postings. And to me, that's pure tragedy. It's tragedy because you have to understand how those job posting spots, which are advertising spots, how they're sold. I used to do all the national contracts, VP over the 100 office recruiting system. Those job postings are sold up to 1 year in advance. And it's only we actually get a good deal. So how many could we use? You take that number to your sales rep, you do a little bit of horse trading, and suddenly you sign that contract. Those are use them or lose them in 12 months. Really, no idea. 6 months up to a year ago, no idea what I'm going to hire today. And very quickly that escalates into posting things I may hire someday. Very little relevance on today. And that ends up with about half of all job postings not actually being real. If you're taking all your job search time and investing it looking at job postings, wow, we're leaving a lot on the table. All of these activities here are part of an effective job search. And we're going to talk about how you control that so you don't end up in these very unhappy places with everything spiraling out of control, hopeless, I can't get out of this. As much as I'm here to give you advice, I'm also here to drive this point home as well. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. We have to put down that smart device or get out of the back seat and get behind the wheel, or we're never really going to get to the destination that we're dreaming about. So this is about learning how to take back control. Your guiding principle to manage your job search. Is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? Let's think about that. If I backed up about 10 years and I'm, headed to the direction that I am now, I had written my book and some other things, but you know what I didn't have yet at that point? I didn't have quotes in the media. Oh, how do I get those things? How do I get those things? Not unlike an effective job search. You simply have to target the right audience that could benefit from you, same as in hiring. So I went to Google. I clicked the news tab. I put in a few keywords all about job search, my field. You know what I got back? I got all these articles attached to journalists all over the country that write about job search. Now I have a target list of 50 journalists I can reach out to introduce myself as the new voice in job search, to give them examples of what I bring to the table and why they should consider me for their next article. And of course, it wasn't very long after that things changed. But in the middle of all that, I'm sitting on my home office couch at that point, sending these press releases out one at a time. I can't send it to all 50 people at once. Oh, I guess somebody else will write about this guy. Has to go individually. So In the middle of that, I'm like, is this the most effective use of my time at this moment? Well, obviously I did not like what I was doing, but I won the argument. Yes, I had intellectually decided it was worth the investment of time. Get back to it, just do it, just send them out, John. 2 hours later, got a call from the Wall Street Journal. Oh, very effective use of my time. You have to approach your job search the same way. You have to approach it as an intellectual chess game of how I'm going to get what I want. And this guiding principle will keep you on track. We'll show you how that works as we go along. So besides that laundry list of things that I showed you, all of that really has to be distilled down into a few categories. Categories like searching for jobs or sending out resumes or networking or following up on all those things that I have sent out, or strategizing about how we're going to do better on our next interview, or even directly marketing ourselves right to the hiring manager. That's my last lecture. We're going to cover a little bit of that detail in this one as well. As you begin to think about the steps I'll teach you today, the goal is to learn to repeat without thought, because it's a sales process. It's not an emotional process, even though it takes an emotional toll. You have to put your emotion aside and understand simply a sales process. I have to use the steps. Now, if I'm going to structure and build a job search plan of action, what are the details? Actually, much simpler than you might think. I have to select or choose the organizations or companies. It's like going on a date. I walk into a room with 50 people and go, hey, anybody want a date? You want a date? You want a date? With some random person that you're just a random date? I don't really think so. Versus you walk into a room and suddenly someone captures your imagination, attention, inspiration, and I just had to come over here and introduce myself. I had to meet with you. I couldn't hold myself back. They may like you or not like you. That's a different thing. But when you understand that not only is it a sales process, but it is a dating process as well, all mixed together, then we begin to understand that if we pick the companies from our heart, who are the companies you're dying to work for. And by the way, the reason you're dying to work there cannot be because you see an open job. This is a date, and the open job is about you. Ever go on a date with Mr. Me? Me. It doesn't go very well. There's not usually a second date. So choose the companies you genuinely are dying to work for whatever reason, doesn't matter, as long as it's real. Select the 25 to 30 individuals. Imagine where you're going to see this job. You understand how it's generally structured in the organization. Look at where your job would be and reverse search LinkedIn, the way I show in depth on my LinkedIn lecture. And we're going to go in there and find these decision makers. I'll show you a little bit of that today coming up. Imagine people up the food chain, down, left and right. Probably I've opened up and found the individuals that I would likely interact with almost every day or every week of my work life if I were to be hired for this role. That's your audience to warm up behind the scenes before you even do outreach. Now I'm going to go to LinkedIn. I'm going to open their profiles. When I open their profiles, that triggers a marketing event. Six people have looked at you. Who's looked at me? If you haven't looked at it before, you certainly will now. And once you start looking at it, you can't really stop. It's human nature. So, by the way, this is a tool that LinkedIn has created really to create desire in you to pay for an account. I mean, I only use the free version. You should use whatever version you'd like. But we can use that same tool to warm up the audience behind the firewall of the company, simply by opening their profiles. And now, while all those profiles are open, I do need a little more sip. Now, while all those profiles are open, I'm simply going to ask every one of them to connect with me. Basic message that says you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Here's a little bit of a stroke to your ego at the same time. As an equal. Both of these activities, the opening to asking to connect, that's like taking a little hook and a little worm, tossing it under the pond and being brave enough to wait till someone clicks on it. The goal is to get them onto your sales brochure all about you. That's your three-dimensional LinkedIn profile. Should be three-dimensional sales brochure. Driving them to one conclusion. My gosh, if I add this person to the team, if I hire this person, if I work with this person on the project, best business decision I'm going to make today, that's for sure. Now, I ask to connect. I don't wait for any answer because the answers are completely irrelevant. This is a sales process. There's no waiting. Open, ask to connect, move on to the next step, which is selecting 3, 4, or 5 people out of the 25 to 30 that you think, because your opinion is the only one that actually matters, you think somehow they're going to be involved in the conversation for a person like you. Just from their gut feeling, 3, 4, 5 people. And those people, I'm going to reach out directly by real email, right into their inbox, not LinkedIn, right into their inbox. I've already asked to connect. I didn't wait. And now to each one of those folks, I reach out as if they're the only person in the world. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. Pause. Oh, are you? Oh, do tell. What is it? Is it my hair, my eyes, whatever? Yes, if you tell them you're excited about their company, they're going to wonder what is exciting you. So you have to, if you don't know, by the way, you have to go do your research, go see what's going on with the company, click Google, go to the news tab, put in the company's name, find out what's in the news about them. If nothing there, I could look at their press releases. I can find something to mention to stroke their ego with after I tell them I'm so excited. Oh, I saw the Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. Those things are always so good to get. My gosh, don't forget to be a real human being when you reach out to people. It is much more effective than this detached, cold, sterile, oh, I'd like to be considered for what? A little more gruel they're going to hand down from above? That doesn't really work these days, or not very well. So I'm going to reach out to these individuals, and we'll take you through the full script a little bit later. And you know what? I'm going to reach out to all 3 to 5, however many I gather, because the more people you reach out to, the odds of success go up. Your goal is to book a meeting and sell and repeat. That's the basic structure, because job search is a sales process. We have to go after that job. We have to maybe get that job, but we can't usually do it the way we've done it in the past. Everything has shifted. Everyone's sitting home hitting that same darn button you're hitting. Doesn't too often say apply, mostly says submit. All capital letters until we're so submissive it's like a Friday night. Waiting for that phone to ring. It's going to ring. I'll be a telemarketer when it does ring. Just the way it works. And you know where you're going to end up again, in a very uncontrollable, unhappy place. The goal of the whole lecture series, and specifically today's lecture as well, is for you to become a self-recruiter. This one great recruiter that only works with one great candidate. So you're going to be the manager of your whole job search, the manager of your career once you land the new job. So a self-recruiter is someone that takes control, really networks in a very different way. So please do watch the LinkedIn lecture video. Very, very important. That's the bulk of the networking a new way. But also they'll keep one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable. 4, 5, 6 people, scare you out of even going after that. Oh, they're going after that. Oh, forget it. That person. Oh my gosh, we can beat those people so easily. You know, job search is problem solving. Think of the biggest, most stressful project you ever worked on in your work life. What level of focus and problem solving was involved in that? Your job search is the most important thing you've ever worked on. You need the same level of focus, stress, energy. I have to get it done. Now, 30 companies, if they could be statistically perfect to hire you. Now, if you've ever worked with a good recruiter, and you know, when I say, oh, who's worked with a good recruiter, and it's a big audience and a few hands go up. Well, a lot of them have worked with a recruiter, but I said good recruiter, a few hands go up. You know, I think there's 2, 3, 4% of the entire industry that are really great. Most of the rest, unfortunately, pick up whatever's around and throw it against the wall to see what'll stick. But the good recruiters, if they met you, phone or Zoom or whatever, doesn't really matter. But if they met you and they went, wow, you are a good candidate, I want to work with you. And if they meant it, because, you know, they say a lot of these things that they don't mean to extract information from you that they're going to use against you with their own collection of people. But if they actually meant it, oh, you're a good candidate, I want to work with you. Then what the good recruiter will do once you hang up the phone or disconnect off Zoom or walk out of their office, whatever it might be, is they're going to go to their database. Now you have your own database. It's called LinkedIn. They're going to go to their database and they're going to do what I'll show you next and pick 30 companies that are statistically perfect to hire you. The only real unknown is, do they have an opening? So a good recruiter will create this list. They will not bother to go look at the company websites. They will not bother to go look at the job boards. They simply pick up the phone, call 30 managers at 30 companies, and boom, every single time, 2, 3, or 4 out of the 30 go, oh, we need a person just like this. Oh, you do? Or you? Tell me about your problem. Tell me about your need. Tell me what's going on. What we don't tell them is the homework, the magic trick, how I structurally went after to produce these opportunities. Let them enjoy the fact that you just land it right in their lap. But if they have an opening, they're going to want to hire you. Right list does change everything. Now, a little bit more on sales process. There's nothing too unusual here. I think most of us by this stage have probably seen a sales funnel. If you've got a great plan, you can move a mountain. Without it, nothing is really going to happen. The amount of activity that goes into the top determines whatever may drip out at the bottom. It's kind of like distilling things down to the essence of something really delicious. So you're not going to get what you want without enough activity. What I recommend, if you'd like to have the potential of multiple offers, is that you must learn how to juggle pursuing 10 organizations simultaneously. That may sound like something that is easy to some folks and not possible to others. You have to think about all that's involved. For each organization, I'm going to reverse search the company, go select 25 to 30 people that surround the job, up, down, left, right, open the profiles, ask them to connect. Don't wait for the answer. Pick the 3, 4, 5 decision makers, send them all essentially the same proposal to meet with them, which you're going to hear coming up. And then I need to do that for all 10 companies. And your job is as the salesperson, which means it's not their job to answer your message or respond to you. It's your job to cause them to want to respond to you, to cause them to make time to get to you, or you have to get to them. So you're absolutely going to have to go, well, what do I do? Second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, because my goal is to produce an interview. Essentially, I'm not going away until someone either produces the interview for me or picks up the phone and go, could you quit calling me? Which I've had happen as a recruiter. Absolutely. Fall on your sword. Oh, I'm Jack Jim Jill. I'm so sorry. Absolutely. I got so excited. I just reached out, blah, blah, blah. You know, my background really is an outstanding fit to bring tremendous value to your team. And I just couldn't hold myself back. I'm so sorry. Absolutely. You don't think I'm going to not pitch myself. Whole goal of juggling 10 organizations is to get to 1 brand new interview per week. So we're going to create this job search plan and really get our engines moving. Just to recap, select the organizations or companies. Now, if 30 seems too tough for you, can you come up with 10? Most people could probably come up with 10. 10 that I'm dying to work for some reason. That is not some open job that I see. Great. If you can get to 10, you can certainly get to 30. Pull up those 10 companies. Maybe you need to use one of the financial tools. There's a lot of those out there. Yahoo Finance, Hoovers.com. There's lots of other free ones too. And what I would say is, look up the profile of those organizations. Most of the financial tools, just on the left or just on the right, have this little short list of here's your 2 or 3 direct competitors. Probably a better synopsis in lay terms of what the company actually does as well. So great. You take all 10 companies, do that. And now you have potentially maybe 40 companies to look at. Cross out a few duplicates, cross out a few you don't like. I bet you probably to 30 companies pretty quickly. And even if you hadn't thought of these other companies before, because they also match your 10 as competitors, likely the same reasons you might like to work for the 10 might apply to the others. So easy really to get to 30, but not if you don't do your homework. I do talk to a lot of people who hear all this and they go, oh, and then they get right back on the computer looking at job postings. I'm like, well, I know your future's not going to change unless you change. Devise the steps needed. I mean, what John is saying isn't really possible, but if it was, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars, working backwards to try to figure out the steps? Not very difficult. Discover the decision makers. I'll teach you that today. That's pretty easy. Overcome their objections because their title is decision maker. Their job is to object to you, to see how you overcome those objections. That's how they decide whether or not you're the one. When someone objects to what I'm saying, inside I'm like, because they're engaging me. They're desiring to hear what I'm about to say. They can't wait to hear how I'll put my thoughts together to overcome this objection. So I know what an objection means, and it excites me. It doesn't depress me. Get a meeting, dazzle them. Let them either create that job or give that job to you, whatever it might be, or if necessary, kick someone to the curb because you need that job. When we go to connect with people, we're really warming up the audience. So when conversation happens behind the firewall, oh, I just got a resume from an amazing person. Oh, they're very familiar. Yes, because you've already been working behind the scenes. So to be clear, and just a little more detail on screen for you, we're going to go up and down the food chain, left and right, other departments. It's a sales process. We're going to open, we're going to ask to connect, and yet we don't attach emotion to it. We want to clearly communicate you don't know me so they don't disconnect, but I'm professionally appropriate. Include the little stroke to the ego. What does that look like? Well, you've heard me say it. This is what it looks like. I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how I like to say that. And I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Now, some people go, oh, but they're not really in my niche. Okay, and so who cares? Use this language. If you're approaching those companies, even if they're in a different function, you're really in the same niche. You just may be in a marketing function, they're in an accounting function. None of that matters. You're in the same field of industry. Think about how this will begin to warm people up. Key here is we don't wait for any answer. It doesn't really matter. Now we look back at the 25 to 30, you select the 3, 4, 5 people. Who do I think would be likely involved in the decision process or maybe likely involved in the conversation? And then you have to capture this information. You're building knowledge about these companies, the players within these companies. And guess what? They're going to move to other companies. And the more you retain this knowledge you are building, the more you'll be able to leverage that in the future. So this is a company development sheet. You can download them right from my website under the advice tab. Just look for the job search management system. You can download it all. This will also help you manage the process and think, what's the next step? It's a sales process. There it is again. Repeat, 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 repeat. This part should not be that difficult for you. It is the part that people go, oh, but that seems like real work. It is real work. That is the real work of job search. Now, our script has to probably change as well, and maybe even what we've said about our background. Maybe you've been out of work for the last, a year and a half, and you haven't worked remotely. And yet, about 70% of the white collar work has all gone remote in that time frame. So if I was looking to hire, no matter how much my company says, oh, let's go back to the office soon. Okay, but I'm looking at the scientific data here. No matter when we do go back, my concern right now is, can you be effective working remotely? Can I onboard you? Never having really met anybody. Will you stay under that circumstance? And a lot of that is, have you had experience remote before? And if you haven't, you're probably in a panic, but maybe you've done remote-like things before, offsite vendor or offsite manager, or you've worked at a distance, even though maybe you did it from the office, or maybe you've been a speaker or someone that engages part of the team or even clients, maybe you presented at conferences or webinars or conference calls. All of that is a demonstration of the ability to accomplish things in a remote way with ease. Let's get to those decision makers. So who is it that makes these decisions? And I don't mean just the decider. We have to really get to all the influencers around those persons, because every one of them gets influenced. Often the decider won't make the decision without a higher ups leaning left or right so they can kind of get in alignment behind them in case something goes wrong. So let me be clear. Unless you'd like to work within HR, your decision maker is not within HR. HR only hires HR individuals. The rest of it is simply facilitation. Facilitating the meetings, facilitating the offers, background checks. That's not the decision. That's the facilitation. And yet that HR person's mission in life is to rule you out. Not because they're bad people. No, they're not bad people. Their mission in life is to rule you out because they're sent this endless incoming barrage of resumes, 1,000, 2,000 resumes for every decent job being sent in. I can't tell these people apart. They have to pick up every resume and go, what's wrong with this one? What's wrong with this one? What's wrong with this one? Or you can never get to the right person. And yet I would say to the HR person typically does not have the correct background to make that deep judgment about you. They're simply judging against this nonsense, at least in my view, this nonsense checkbox list, part of what is typically called the job posting, which I have a different phrase for, called the list of the irrelevance. Yeah, I get it. Some of that's tangentially connected, but that's not a picture of the day-to-day of this job. You know who knows the day-to-day of the job? You know who would be able to speak the same lingo as you, the person that would identify with your value right away? The decision maker. 90-second discussion with the decision maker would change everything. Are you going to let your future be ruled out by some HR that doesn't respond to you or doesn't understand your value? Or are you going to get right to the decision maker? By the way, one of my clients is in interviewing right now, and job went up, caught their attention. Boy, it's a sweet one too. And first thing they did was reach directly out to the decision maker. Captivating pitch. Did not hear back right away. Of course, they didn't expect it. And at the same time, they began working their back channel. Who in my past might know this decision maker? And there was a confluence of amazing time where the old boss passed that new decision maker, and suddenly we realized we could orchestrate some back channel communications to maybe make our case. And then suddenly we got an email from HR booking us for round 2. Enjoyed our earlier conversation. That really never happened. There was no conversation. But obviously there were other candidates that went through a pre-screening process to arrive at, now it's really time for the interviews. Change your future. But it does take a measured risk approach. So getting to the decision makers, it could be the boss, boss's boss, or boss's boss's boss. Influencing those folks could get to peers, subordinates, who really knows. You're the expert in your field. So we covered this in the earlier lecture this week in detail, if you need more detail on it. But think about your field. You pretty much know the structure. Build out and capture the names, the knowledge, and the people that you're pursuing. Think about those next steps and begin to really manage it. Now, other ways you can get to some decision makers besides the normal reverse searching on LinkedIn. We'll look for some name mentions in articles, books, blogs, who knows what. By the way, every salesperson in the world does that same thing, and then they mention it. And yes, your target that you're going after understands what you're doing. They can't resist it anyway because you're stroking their ego and they respond to you. Don't be afraid of it. Name mentions. Gosh, I saw your name at such and such. I had to reach out and say hello. Referrals. Anybody that you speak to could refer you to another individual. That's a wonderful way to do it. But most people are going to do it by reverse searching LinkedIn combined with your own understanding of how the organizational charts work in your field. Let's just recap how you search on LinkedIn. Longer, deeper view of this in the LinkedIn lecture. Unified search box at the top of every page. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to search. In this case, I'm searching Informatica. When you get that drop-down menu, don't click on it, trip down the rabbit hole. Simply type what you'd like, hit enter. You get this nice secondary sorting process. And yes, I'm here to find the employees of Informatica, but as long as I'm here, I bet you there must be another company or two I didn't think about. So let's brainstorm while we're here because it's problem solving. Oh, there's the companies. Let's look at the companies. 34,000 companies. Wow, that's what's going on. Yeah, a few dozen of these that really belong to Informatica, but who are the rest down this list once you get past the Informatica? I can tell you because this used to be one of my fields. These are all system integrators further down that list. They either install or sell Informatica software. If I were statistically right to work for Informatica, I'm very likely statistically right to work for a great number of these companies. This is another method of building statistically perfect lists of companies that would love to hire you. Now, but then I really have to get to people. So I go back over, no, show me the people. What do I get? Oh, 2.5 million. Oh, can't get through that list. I have to think. Again, because it's problem solving. That's our job. Give me the ones just in the US. I don't need to see them everywhere. And while I'm thinking of it, I don't need the ones that used to work at Informatica 3 years ago. I need the ones working there today. Currently, Informatica, currently in the US. What do I get? Oh, 1,615 results. It's much better. I can't look at 1,600 results either. Let me think. I have to brainstorm a little bit more. So I think it's a VP. A VP, I think, is going to hire me. Really US, really currently working there. And what do I get? 75 VPs. Whoa, a lot of chiefs at the company. Maybe it's a sales director. Maybe it's a director or sales director. Let's see. Director, United States, and really Informatica. What do I get? 228. Let's go down to the sales director. It must be that. So sales director. And while I'm at it, let's go right down to New York City. even on the free version. What do I get? Three. I'm looking for 3 to 5. So I'm happy, but I'm not quite happy. So let me think. Besides these folks, maybe there's a sales VP, not just a sales director. Maybe there's a sales VP in New York. What do I get there? 2 more. Now I'm up to 5. You have the 5 top people to influence to get your job. I can reach out to every single one of these. I might get frustrated sometimes because I get this send in-mail. Please understand what in-mail is. It is spam. The literal definition of spam. It is paid email. It may not seem like spam to you, but I can tell you my inbox is populated with well over 1,000 unopened LinkedIn messages, endless nonsense spam clogging the entire system. So when you get this send in-mail, please don't send that. Just load their profile, click the ... and you realize they just hid the connect button behind the little drop down. There's that message I write one time ever, copy and paste forevermore, capturing everything that is here because it's a sales process and I have to evolve this thing. Now, don't forget, besides the sales process, it's also a date. So it's got to be about them before it's ever about you. Wherever you are in this process here, we're going to have to repeat. Just a simple process. And we have to do it over and over. Now, let's talk about script, because where you're going to win or lose your value is in what you say about yourself. Your job is to be persuasive. You have about 30 seconds to live or die. And die sounds like, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Okay. Well, let's show you how we get through this. This is part of the same forms you can download right on my SelfRecruiter website, right under the advice tab. Just look for the job search management system. So let me take you through the structure of how the script works. You're not really going to write it right this second. All the text on the left side will remind you of what I teach you right now when you go to write yours. We're going to greet them professionally. We're going to wait for their response, which we cannot pretend we didn't hear if we don't like it. We're going to acknowledge that response, good, bad, or ugly. We're not here for permission. We're just going to acknowledge it. And we're going to tell them right while we're calling. By the way, if we went to one of those schools, there's only about this many. If we went to one of those schools, my gosh, mention it. I have clients that went to those schools and I see the hinges literally fly off the doors. I'm like, wow, it's true. If you didn't go to one of those schools, and I know you think your school is just as good, it's not as good. It's one of those or it's not. Leave the education off the discussion for the moment, unless the manager went to the same school, of course, a way to build good chemistry. Get right to the 2 or 3 key elements that you've delivered that would make the manager jump out of their chair, and then simply close them for a meeting. That's one thing to hear the description, but let's let you hear how it actually might sound. And I'm going to give you the version where the manager is not having a good day when I call. And yes, we can do this by email. We can do it by voicemail. Most effective is to do a combination of those. So if I'm going to pick up the phone and call them, I pick up the phone and call them, and I'm going to write, good morning, Jack. How are you this morning? Well, I'm going to tell them who I am first, though, because most people might start out that way and they're listening to your voice. They're going, oh, I know this voice. Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? And they're not even listening to you. So back it up and go, hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. Just like they should know who that is, as if that's somebody. How are you doing this morning? Now, right away, they're focused. They're listening. They go, oh, I don't know John Crant. And they're listening. And they're going to give you one of 3 responses, probably like, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? That's the trained dog, trained to respond to this. Or they're going to go, oh, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? That's fine, too. I love that one. Or they're going to go, I'm terrible. Well, Jack, let's see if we can change that. I'm not going to speed up. They're not going to throw me off my soapbox that I've set up, but I do have to acknowledge it, and then I have to get right to the point. The reason for my call, Jack, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I am so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. I saw the Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. Those things are always so good to get. Pause. At this juncture, you've stroked their ego. You've showcased their new initiative that you could probably add value to. Now you have to strike while the iron is hot, connect your background to it. You know, when I was with the ABC company and have a carrot to dangle, oh, I handled a very similar launch. You know, I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. Now, don't tell people what they're experiencing. Don't tell me what I'm experiencing. Oh, enough wiggle room. your team might be experiencing. That would be valuable for me to hear. Then all you have to do is be brave enough to go for the jugular. I have an opening on my calendar. My calendar. Your words are very, very important. Open on my calendar Tuesday at 10 a.m. One day, one time, never more. You're open all next week. I'm never going to meet with you. Your dance card is not full and people are not after you if you open all next week. So one day, one time to get them to react to it. By the way, if I'm going after 3 to 5 people, you better believe it. All 3 to 5 people are going to get the proposed Tuesday at 10 a.m. It'll be the best problem you've ever experienced if multiple people want Tuesday at 10 a.m. And statistically really does not happen. Close them. Get that meeting, suggest it, have them react to you. This is how you start the conversation. Now, you're either going to get or not get the goal that you're after. You then want to think about what else you could get. Maybe you could give them a call back to ask them other questions, but it can't sound like, can I call you back to bother you? It's really much closer to what an actual good recruiter does, which is developing an agreement for a relationship. Something as simple that could be valuable to that target manager. Jack, from time to time, I'll run into some interesting situation. You don't think that manager wants to be aware of an interesting situation happening within their field at essentially their level within the industry? Of course they do. They live in a bubble when speaking to others in the industry. It would be helpful. I think despite what's going on in the world, I think human beings generally are good when there's a possibility to be good, but we don't get enough chances to have brownie points in our life. So this is a way to allow them to help you. Gosh, it would be helpful to run a scenario. I'd love to hear a scenario. Would it be okay if I gave you a call for your opinion or advice? My opinion or advice? It's very, very effective. You may or may not ever call them back. But if you do need to, boy, it makes a strong bond and they will remember you from going through this. When I was taught this as a recruiter, at first I thought it was complete nonsense, but it really does work. Now, your goal is to not just call them back. That's burning out your assets. I may never call them back because I don't want to call them back without a strategic reason. What am I after? What am I trying to get? So that means I have to manage and balance those communications and build trust as much as I can. Now, at the end of your outreach, what else could I get from this call or email? Or what else can I say? Or what are they thinking of me? And what do they think of me? And what about my skills? And what else can I do? There's always some other thing that you can do. Maybe they just hired. I went around in conversation and I figured out a few nice things there. If they just hired, that person just came from someplace else and there's probably an open job over there. Oh, I hope you follow the conversation and go get those details. But after you've collected as much as you can also stick them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes and ask for an opinion. Jack, I know with your background and position within the industry, you must hear things. Who do you know that's hiring right now? Oh, ABC company. Or Jack, with your background and position within the industry, what am I missing? If you had my background, where would you look? I'd look at ABC company. Why didn't they tell me before? Not their job to think of things to tell me. It's your job to cause them to think of things to tell you and create the motivation for them to tell you. Nudge, nudge, nudge. Each of these things will move your job forward. Your job is to make sure to run through the steps of everything, warm up the audience, reach out to those decision makers, all with the goal of let's get this conversation going so I can explore what's going on with them. Much easier to manage if you have a system. You can download this whole thing. It will help you manage your core activities as long as you think about what has to be done. What you do is sit down every Friday and have a epiphany moment to figure out what's working, what's not working, what do I need to do. Let's just go over a goals sheet for you. The whole system you can download yourself. Let's zoom in so you can see the bottom of the sheet. Now, I want to track the number of companies I'm going to contact each week. These are brand new companies I've never contacted before. All those follow-up contacts, that's great. And that's important too. You have to have fresh blood in your job search at all times. This is how you do it. That is not a wild number. Maybe it's 3. 3 every single week escalates very quickly with the 25 to 30, the 3, 4, 5, all follow-up. It'll be very difficult to maintain 3 brand new ones every single week. Number of emails outbound to managers, really not to HR, unless you're trying to be hired within HR. Those are emails out to decision makers that you've never contacted before. Yes, I'm sending out all these other ones I have to for follow-up. New blood every single week. Number of calls, if we're calling, number of calls, outbound, inbound calls don't matter. That's the fruits of your labor coming back to you. Maybe you're not calling and you're going to put a 0 here. That's okay. If you're not ready for it, I understand. Number of calls to managers, if you are calling, notice the number of calls to HR are not bolded unless you want to work within HR, of course. Out of all that activity, the part you can kid yourself most about, the number of meaningful conversations. About the right number, if you're working all week to have conversations, is probably about 6. About 6 times whether you got or didn't get what you wanted, but you were able to extract other information that was actionable, usable, helped you in your job search. Then, as I mentioned a few moments ago, every single Friday we sit down and we rate ourselves. And this is where you have to have some honesty, some fluorescent light of honesty, where if you got a goose egg, you put down a goose egg. Track that over 8 weeks, you will have a marked difference in your outcome. Lots of other forms to kind of take you through everything that you have to manage in your job search. Take your first step and repeat, 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 repeat. Thank you guys for joining in for Supercharging Your Job Search. I'd like to invite you to a very special session this Friday. This Friday at 11 a.m. is another Ask SelfRecruiter session. If you would like your job search questions answered, don't hesitate to send them in. Just send them to ask@selfrecruiter.com. That's ask@selfrecruiter.com. Hopefully you can join us Friday at 11. And of course, please like, subscribe, ding the bell, all those kind of fun things, share with your friends. And if you need some help, reach out. Check my SelfRecruiter website, check the services tab. Everything is laid out there. And if you need to talk beforehand, reach out. We'll set up a discussion. Thank you guys for joining in, and we'll see you on Friday. Take care.